All right, good morning, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining us today. I'm Amy DeCook, Executive Director for the North Dakota School Boards Association. I thank you for the work that you do as board members and for being here with us today. This month's Brunch and Learn session is about an idea that simplifies everything that you all do as board members and as district leaders, putting student outcomes at the center of our governance work. And we're going to explore a governance model that NDSBA has taken over called Students First Governance. And this governance model helps boards turn their agendas, the data that they can collect, and the dialogue and discussion that they have at their meetings into better results for kids, which again, ultimately is why you all do what you do. Like always, please feel free to ask questions throughout today's discussion. You can do that by utilizing the Q&A feature on your Zoom screen. I'm just going to open it up here so I can watch for those questions. So let's start first with how Students First came to be and why now is the best time to start putting student outcomes at the center of your governance work. So as many of you may know, Students First grew out of North Dakota's Be Legendary School Board Training Program, which was created in 2021 with ESSER funds following the COVID-19 pandemic to address governance challenges that the pandemic really made impossible to ignore. So the aim of that program and the aim of Students First still is very straightforward. It's to help boards link every decision that you make and that your leadership teams make, um, link those to student outcome goals, and then support that shift now through the redesigned Students First program with coaching, in-person launch experiences, and a new digital platform that will help you track your goals and your progress. And we'll get in to what that means more here in a bit. But in the first 2 years of the first few years of the Be Legendary program, 49 of our school districts in North Dakota engaged in the program in some way, some attending the 2-day institute, while others also electing to work with a coach and implement the things that they learned at the institute into their practice at their board meetings. So 49 districts of our out just in the first few years of the program is a good sign that our boards are interested in putting what matters first, and that is our students. And from day one, NDSBA supported the program, and the intent was always for NDSBA to take over administering the program and bring it more statewide to our member school boards. So one of the things that we've been working on here at NDSBA as we've taken over the program from the Department of Public Instruction is to review and redesign the program. And we wanted to really do that for three simple reasons. We wanted the program to be sustainable. We wanted to add clarity to the program and consistency in how the program was delivered and how it works for school boards. So first, as to sustainability, we wanted long-term in-state coaches so that districts aren't depending on, kind of one-off trainings or somebody that knows how school boards in North Dakota work and function. And so we wanted to build that bench of local support to help our boards through the program and the goals of the program. We wanted to add clarity. The board's role is governance. And so we wanted to make sure that Boards through the program focus on their role and their responsibilities. The redesign keeps students and measurable goals and outcomes at the center so that your agendas, the questions that you're asking, and the decisions that you're making all point in that same direction towards improving student outcomes. And then third, we wanted to uh, provide, through the redesign, we wanted to provide boards with tools that you can utilize to help accomplish the goals that you're setting, to provide a digital platform to help gather data so that we can see how the program is performing across the state and report that data to our statewide leaders who are supporting not only this program with state dollars, but also funding K-12 public education overall, taking on a larger share of that, year to year. Um, it's important for them to know now more than ever how public schools are performing and the work that you all are doing and the great work that you all are doing. And so one of the things we wanted to do is help you share that information specifically through how this program works for our school boards. So this one idea is the core idea of Students First. It was the core idea of the Be Legendary program. And it kind of runs through everything that we're going to talk about today. The core idea is this: what gets measured and monitored in public drives what leaders prioritize in practice. So if your board visibly monitors a small set of student outcome goals, the entire school system, from your superintendent, your principals, your teachers, your school staff, your students, your parents, your community, aligns attention and effort with you. So what you focus on, they will focus on. If you monitor, and the other thing too is we want the boards to set a small set of goals to focus on and to monitor. Because I think sometimes if we try to monitor everything, you monitor nothing. Nothing really, you don't get value out of it. So choosing the few outcomes that truly matter will help you have discipline and make sure that you're focusing on moving the needle for your students. So again, this core idea you'll see kind of just permeate throughout everything that we're going to talk about with respect to the program today. So why should school boards matter for student achievement? Um, Board actions and superintendent alignment correlate with stronger outcomes. High impact boards, those that are high functioning and have a high impact, set clear goals, use relevant data, monitor progress towards those goals, and then align the resources that they have, whether that be funding, facilities, staff, um, whatever that may be, align all of those resources to the goals that they've set. Crucially, your meeting design becomes and how your meetings are designed become the engine. So when agendas protect time for student outcomes, the system overall receives that message and starts to focus on student outcomes. So that's why, um, you know, laser focus on student outcomes at the board level is so important because you set the tone, you set the mission, you set the vision of the district. And if you don't care about, and I shouldn't say don't care about, because of course we all care about how our students are doing. But if we're not talking about that at our board meetings, and you're not focusing on them and spending time at your meetings and setting that vision, how can you expect your leadership teams, your staff, your educators to do that? And so it's really from the governing body down, focusing on student outcomes to help move that needle. So, one of the things why we find it are so passionate about moving this program forward and getting it to a place where it works for every school board that is interested and desires to focus on student outcomes and try to move the needle so that our students are more prepared, better prepared for whatever that they want to accomplish when they leave your doors and walk through across the stage at graduation. Is we do feel that the shift is not only interesting and something a good thing to focus on, but it's urgent. It's absolutely needed, and it's overdue across the country. As I'm sure all of you are seeing, we are seeing persistent challenges, um, pressures to perform and do more with less. We have polarization politically that is kind of permeating down into our schools, into our communities. We are having higher turnover of superintendents, of educators, of principals. And so we believe that one lever has been underused, and that is governance. Um, think of it as like how a board of directors for a private business functions. They don't watch profits because they love money, or at least they shouldn't be watching profits because they love money. They watch how profits are doing because it signals whether the strategy and the leadership that they've put in place are working. And so you can kind of shift that towards how we look at it for school board governance. In schools, student outcomes are the profit. They are the best indicator of whether the strategies that you've put in place and that your leadership teams have put in place are actually delivering for your students. Every dollar, every hour of training, every policy that you adopt is an investment towards those outcomes that are the indicator of performance. If the board at your board meetings spend time monitoring outcomes and asking smart, good questions, the system as a whole will align, um, and you can move the needle towards improving student achievement. If meetings, as on the other hand, if meetings are more focused on operational issues, like what buses do we have? What are we serving for lunch? What, kind of trying to micromanage staff issues, whatever the case may be, whatever the example may be. The system will start to focus on those issues too. And so again, we at NDSBA firmly believe that what you focus on at your meetings, what you find important and what's on your agendas is going to permeate down through the system. And that's what's going to be important in the system as well. Your role as a governing body and as a leadership team is to define the destination, student outcomes that matter. That's the destination. And then monitoring whether your leadership team is getting the district to that destination that you've set. That's how we believe school boards and public education can steward our community's future by focusing on how you as a governing body can move the needle for your students and your community. I think it's important in this conversation, and I think this is kind of why again, why it matters for boards to focus on and spend time monitoring and measuring student progress towards these goals, student outcome goals. Um, is you look at the qualities of high functioning boards, and research tells us that high functioning boards operate across three domains. The first is that they focus on stewardship. So they set and guard the mission and values of the school district by the work that they do at their meetings. They align resources to that mission and those values, and then they manage risk to make sure that um, the mission and the values are carried out. Um, they also strategize. They set goals, they define measures, and then they oversee progress towards those goals. And then finally, they have and exercise adapted leadership. And what I mean by that is they learn together, they reframe problems so that they um, can figure out how to solve them and find solutions. And then they innovate and change as conditions change. So they're adaptive to what's going on uh, in their district, in their communities. Um, and again, those are kind of the three areas or three qualities of high functioning boards. And when you pair all of those three things with disciplined agendas and productive dialogue at your board meetings so that they um, are more productive towards learning and making good decisions as opposed to like just getting an update and having reports given to you. That's really the hallmark and the qualities of high functioning boards. And this program um, works towards helping boards put these things at the forefront and exercise these qualities of high functioning boards so that you can again move the needle for your students, which again is why we're all here in the first place. So just a little bit more about what actually Students First governance program is. It is a framework and a support structure that helps boards and leadership teams institutionalize the practices that we've been talking about so that you can remain consistent through, as elections happen and as new members cycle on and off the board and as leadership changes. If you put this framework and support structure in place, again, it helps institutionalize how you do things so that you can, again, focus on improving student outcomes in your district. There are, again, kind of what the framework is. It starts with, and we'll go through these in a little bit more detail here in a minute, but the program starts with an in-person launch experience. This used to be the kind of the 2-day institute under the Be Legendary program. We have completely redesigned that and put it into a 1-day in-person launch experience where your board and your leadership team come together to create shared mindset and foundations so that and to learn more about how the program works so that when you start working with your coach over the next 2 years, you can implement, you'll know how to set realistic and achievable student outcome goals, how you measure those goals, what are the progress measures that you're going to utilize to monitor those goals. That's, the in-person experience is really to, um, focus on creating a shared mindset on the board so that you're ready to implement the goals of the program and work with your coach. And then after that in-person experience, there's 2 years of coaching to help you implement the program objectives. And then there's also, again, I'd mentioned a digital platform that's been created to help you track those goals and to track your behaviors and to help guide you through and being able to gather data so that you can report that out to your community so that you can utilize that in um, seeing how you're getting towards your goals and then making adjustments or whatever the case may be, depending on how progress, what kind of progress that you're making. And then the other thing, important thing that is new for the Students First program as compared to the Be Legendary program is you will have a set of tools and procedures to utilize to help uh, meet those outcome goals that you've set. So for example, one of the things that we'll have is evaluation instruments from not only the superintendent that align with the program goals, but also for boards themselves to make sure that you are, staying on top of and functioning in a way that helps move the needle for students. So a little bit more information on what the core certificate. So the Students First program is not just a governance model, it is also a certification program. And what we mean by that is it's a way for you to boards to become certified in the standards that are set by the program so that you can uh, demonstrate to your staff, to your students and parents and the rest of your community that student outcomes are at the center of your focus as a district and as a governing body. And so there are three kind of core certification standards that are that make up the certification program. The first being student outcomes. I've mentioned that a lot today already. The school district governance uh, the school board governance centers on a small set, again, a small set of student outcome goals that are aligned to your community as well as the statewide vision for student achievement. The next certification standard relates to process and practice. So it helps you, your routine and your meetings are redesigned to maximize the time that you spend on outcomes, student outcomes, and improving those, while also meeting other statutory duties, other operational responsibilities that school boards need to meet. So again, it's to help you maximize the time that you spend in your meetings on student outcomes and moving the needle for students while also meeting your other obligations. For example, like uh, approving your schedule of bills for the month, approving staff changes, staff hirings, whatever the case may be. You still do all of the things that you ordinarily do, but it helps you focus and maximize time so that you can focus on those student outcomes. And then collaborative governance. And what I mean by that is the board acting kind of as the community voice and the superintendent and leadership team acting as the system voice, aligning together to improve outcomes and maximize the return on for your students as well and on the public investment in education, because ultimately, that's also important is that we're maximizing the return that uh, the public spends on K-12 education. So a little bit more about the in-person launch. I've kind of already gone through some of this, but again, the program kind of starts with this in-person launch experience, which is hands-on. At the launch, you and your governance team, which is made up of at least 70% of your school board and should include at least your superintendent. So that is at a minimum what the governance team would look like. That would be participating in the in-person launch experience. It's to learn, again, I think the biggest thing that you'll focus on at the in-person launch experience is shifting, understanding why this matters for the school board to focus on student outcomes. why it's important that boards do it, but also why now more than ever, it's important for school boards to focus on student outcomes. I kind of talked about this already, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds just for the sake of time, but um, what I mean by the why, the why matters so much is it's for it's based on principles. So what we've talked about already is um, ultimately the reason why we're here is to make sure that students have what they need to be successful, productive citizens when they leave your doors, no matter what they set out to do. And, you know, students have a right to a K-12 education, a public K-12 education. So there's also this kind of property interest that students have that we are acting as stewards and shepherding them through that and giving that and helping them achieve that for themselves. And so understanding why it matters for school boards to focus on student outcomes, but also there's this practical element as well. I talked a little bit about why now is important and why it's urgent. Um, Public education is continuously being attacked, and I think unfairly attacked. And there's this narrative out there, this false narrative that public education is failing. At least in North Dakota, that could not be further from the truth. Um, and so, but despite that, we hear that a lot. Just by way of example, we're up at the legislature advocating on behalf of public education, and we're constantly having to push back against this narrative. And I know you all hear that as well. Um, probably in your communities to some extent, but certainly, watching from your communities, watching how our statewide leaders talk about education, you know, there's this practical need for us to show and to demonstrate that public education is laser focused on making sure that student outcomes and student achievement, that we're doing the best that we can um, to make our students as successful as possible. So this program is really designed not only to meet the primary purpose for why school boards and school districts exist, and that is to educate our kids and to make them productive and successful citizens in North Dakota or wherever they end up after they leave your doors. But the practical side of it too is that we need to, it's important that we show our statewide leaders, our community, our parents, our students, our staff that we are focused, that this is important and that we're focusing on this. And so the in-person launch experience spends a lot of time talking about shifting our mindset to focus on that, and what are some of the behaviors that we can align to support that mindset. Um, I got into a little bit more of the weeds than I wanted to, but that's really kind of the focus of the in-person to get you prepared to start then when you start working with your coach um, over the next 2 years and start implementing. It gives you that foundation so that you can hit the ground running when you start working with your coach. So one of the big differences in the redesign of the Students First program as compared to the Be Legendary program um, is that it is a 2-year commitment. It starts with the 1-day in-person launch and then continues with a 2 years of working with an evaluation coach that can help you implement the program practices and procedures to help align your meetings, align your governance to maximizing the time that you spend focusing on student outcome goals. So that's kind of the framework of the program. Oops, sorry. The other thing again that I mentioned is that's brand new is the digital platform that is going to accompany. It helps us administer the program. It helps your coach and your leadership team set and track your student outcome goals. the monitoring cadence that you're going to put in place to monitor your progress towards those goals, and then also to gather data and evidence that the things that you're doing, the resources that you're putting in place to support those goals are doing what they're intended to do. And so it can provide data to help prove, yes, we are moving the needle, but okay, why aren't we moving the needle? Maybe we need to adjust. So it helps you track all of that, and so that you can start making sure that those student outcome goals are achievable and are being achieved. It also will provide kind of a visual progress across governance teams statewide. So not only will you be able to see your progress and how your school district is doing, but you can also see how other districts that are involved in the program are doing across the state as well. That'll also help us, our school districts, be able to provide data to statewide leaders to, to show this is the work that we're doing. This is what your investment, or one of the things that your investment is supporting. And I think it'll really help us strengthen the I don't know if reputation is the right word, but kind of the vision and how people view public education in our state. The digital platform will also track your progress towards certification under the program. Again, this is not only a governance model, but it's a certification. As you meet goals that you're setting and that you're accomplishing tasks in the program, that will get you to meet towards the certification, and you become a Students First certified school district and school board. And so this platform helps you track towards your certification requirements as well. And again, I've kind of already mentioned this, but it's kind of real-time visibility, not only for you internally, for your governance team, for your staff, but also for your community. It allows your community to visualize what your board and your leadership team are doing to help improve student achievement and move the needle for students. So we're really excited about the digital platform piece of Students First Governance, and we're excited for districts that participate to be able to see how that works. Okay, I kind of already mentioned this, but this is a certification program, and the reason we thought certification is the right way to go is because it's, being able to say that you're a certified Students First district is proof of practice. It to your community and to yourselves that you protect time for student outcomes, that you are disciplined in the routines and the practices that you utilize at your meetings, and that you're holding yourselves accountable for the success that your students are seeing. And so again, that's achieving that certification under the program is proof of practice, and signals to your community and to your district that you're focusing and you find student outcomes and how your students doing the most important goal, the most important job of you as a governing body and as a district. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the working tools that will be available through the Students First program. I had already mentioned earlier on an earlier slide that one of the new things that have been developed through the program are board and superintendent evaluation instruments that are aligned with the program. So as you're evaluating yourself as a board, as well as evaluating your leadership team, your superintendent, that the evaluation instruments that you're using are tied to the student outcome goals that that you set. So again, it's tailored to the program. There will also be meeting time analysis to make sure that your agendas align with the program objectives as well as the student outcome goals and the goals of how much time, maximizing the time that you spend at your meeting, focusing on student outcomes, monitoring your progress towards your goals. Um, there will also be, through the digital platform that I mentioned and discussed on the previous slide, there will also be the ability to generate public monitoring reports so that towards those student outcome goals so that you can report out on that progress to internally, to the community, to statewide leaders, whatever the case may be. And then it'll also, there'll be other templates that are available to help you align the resources that you have, staff, facilities, funding, whatever resource we're talking about, aligning those to the goals that you set. So those are some of the tools, like the actual working tools that are going to be available through the program. And Lauren, I see your question about what this looks like. What does it look like for schools that are already Be Legendary certified? I will get to that in a second. I know that a lot of those districts that are have been participating in Be Legendary are anxious to hear kind of how this transition impacts you, and I will get to that in a second. So um, give me a couple of minutes here. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, what is this going to look like um, in the boardroom? What are the changes that you're going to see? And I think this is where boards that participate in the program really feel the difference quickly. And I'm sure that our boards that participate in the Be Legendary program it's very similar to their experience as well. Some of the immediate shifts that you'll see in terms of how some of the practical changes will look. So one of the things is utilizing consent agenda to move through routine items quickly and protect your board time for strategy, for setting goals, for monitoring goals, for discussing and focusing on student outcome goals. So utilizing a consent agenda, which I know a lot of our boards already do. So that won't be a significant shift for some of our boards. Um, Kind of moving away from anecdotal information and discussion when we're trying to make decisions, and then moving more towards utilizing relevant data that are linked to the goals. Um, it's fine to sometimes have those anecdotal discussions and rely on anecdotal information in making your decisions. But when we're talking about student outcomes and moving the needle for students, focusing on relevant data and how those link to your goals is really important. So that's one of the areas where I think is a big shift for some boards that um, utilize the program or will utilize the program in the future is looking more at specific data that are linked to your goals, and a lot of our boards aren't used to doing that. Um, uh, Using kind of shifting towards how we discuss issues and how kind of just how discussion happens at our meetings. So using dialogue first and then moving to discussion and then making decisions. So there's kind of a sequence that's timed, facilitated, and intentional to move through issues through your agenda. Again, ultimately with the goal of maximizing the time that you can spend on what matters most, making sure that you're moving the needle for students. And I know I've said that several times, but that really, again, that's purposeful. The whole point of this is to be laser focused on what matters most. And then beginning every meeting with a public monitoring of student outcomes. And depending on the time of your meeting, that can be 20 or 30 minutes at the start of every meeting, focusing on monitoring student outcomes. And so those are kind of what, like the immediate, I think where you'll really see the difference for districts that go through the program. These are kind of some of the immediate shifts and changes that you'll see in the boardroom. In the interest of time, I'm going to move past this because I think I guess all I'll say on this slide is that, oops, um, the framework of the Students First program is evidence informed. Um, it combines research on effective governance with kind of the real world feedback that we've received from North Dakota districts that have gone through the Be Legendary program, and just our experience with how school boards function and when boards perform better. Um, and really what we've learned is that not only through what we see in our work with North Dakota boards, but also research on effective governance also supports this is perform boards perform better when they focus on and practice new mindsets. So again, for example, asking questions and learning. Boards that ask questions and learn, review data, um, they tend to perform better. Um, kind of shifting your mindset on that you're not just a volunteer, you're serving as, albeit an unpaid professional, in for the most part, unpaid professional, um, and a steward of um, this valuable gift that we are giving. And again, it's not really a gift, they're entitled to it. It's a right that our students have, this gift of education that we're giving, and we're stewarding on behalf of the students in our community. And then reviewing norms every meeting to maintain a healthy culture. So those are some of the mindsets that healthy, high-functioning boards emulate. Okay, so I want to get to kind of the more, I think I get a lot of questions on, okay, well, what is this going to look like in terms of cost and commitment? So one of the things I wanted to, that I'm so grateful for is, and I think is indicative of what our state leaders are looking um, and expecting us to do. Um, the state, the state legislature has supported the Be Legendary program and is continuing and has indicated continuous support of the Students First program through state appropriation. They've appropriated funding over the last um, uh, few legislative sessions, and they did so again this last legislative session, specifically to support this program and to continue its work and expand it more to more boards throughout the state. The local investment is $5,000 per year for each year of the 2-year program. So the total local investment for the Students First program is $10,000. You'd be invoiced $5,000 per year. So you'd work the $5,000 each year of your budget. The rest of the costs for the program um, is going to be supported by state dollars, grant funds that are received from the state legislature through DPI. And so those are going to offset most of the costs, over 75% of the program costs. And so the local investment, is only $5,000 per year for the full 2-year program. One thing I will say is that grant funding, while we are grateful for the grant funding that we've received, it's not unlimited. We only have a certain amount of grant dollars each year of the next biennium to devote towards this program. So slots are limited each year for boards to participate. So if you are interested in participating and shifting your mindset and the time that you spend at your meetings focusing on student outcomes, if that's something that interests you, I really encourage you to talk about it as a board and as a leadership team, and make the decision whether to take advantage of the dollars that have been appropriated to help fund the program. Okay, so what about eligibility and commitment? So to participate in the program, at least 2/3 of your board members plus your superintendent need to commit to attending that 1 day in-person launch experience that I talked about before. And then you also are committing to the 2-year certification cycle and to using the platform, the digital platform, to display and monitor the criteria and the goals that you set. So that, in a nutshell, is the commitment that we're talking about. Um, that's the commitment that and the eligibility for going through the program. So how do you get involved? Um, you can apply at and visit studentsfirst.online to learn a little bit more about the program. A lot of what I've been talking about today is reflected on that website. You can submit an application and choose either a spring or fall cohort. Again, both of those cohorts, the slots are limited. Um, and then you would start to prepare your team for the Launch Institute, which I'll talk a little bit about the timing of that here in a minute, and then begin coaching and platform onboarding after that. So that's that's how you get involved. That's the timeline that is involved in uh, for school boards and districts that elect to go through the program. Um, So a little bit more about timeline in terms of the cohort. So we are accepting applications as we speak. We've already received applications from some districts that are interested in going through the program. We will be accepting applications now through probably mid-January. And I think we're looking for it'll kind of depend on the districts that apply, but we're probably looking at about 10 school districts for the first cohort selection. And we will start with the in-person launch experience for that first cohort in kind of late March through May. Is when those in-person launch experiences will be scheduled. The locations of those will occur throughout the state and will depend on which districts apply, because we want to, try to accommodate in terms of location depending on what districts apply. So stay tuned for that. And then the second cohort, those in-person launch experiences will happen August, September timeframe. That'll be the fall cohort. And then after that is when coaching and monitoring and certification progress is ongoing following that. So that's kind of the timeline that we're moving with right now for the program. Okay, I want to we have about 10 minutes left, and I just got another question about existing Be Legendary districts. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about, these are kind of the frequently asked questions, the most common questions that we are receiving from districts that are interested in the program. I've already talked about how much this costs. Just to confirm, when your application is accepted, the total 2-year local investment is $10,000, invoiced at $5,000 per year. So you can spread that cost over the 2 years at $5,000 each. The state legislature, with grant dollars through DPI, is covering the rest of the costs for participating districts. Again, that's about 75% of the cost is being covered through the grant funding. So your local investment is $5,000 per year for the 2-year program, so a total of 10. What about if your district is currently in the Be Legendary program, either in in the implementation phase, so either years 1, 2, or 3, and we have a number of districts that are continued with that implementation phase from Be Legendary. Can you transition to Students First and not lose the work or time that you've maybe already invested? Yes, absolutely. You all who are interested, who are existing Be Legendary districts who are in the implementation phase, whether that be year 1, 2, or 3, yes, you absolutely can transition into the Students First program. You can transition the progress and the work that you've done towards Student First certification. You get to utilize the digital program. I would encourage you all that are existing Be Legendary districts and that are interested in transitioning. I would please contact me directly, and I can walk you through how that'll look. It'll look different for each district depending on where you're at in the implementation phase, um, how you're working with your current coach. But basically, we will help you um, and your coach transition all of your information to the digital platform. Um, when you have new board members and new leadership members, so if you have a new superintendent or other member of your governance leadership team come into your district, they will be able to uh, get trained on the in-person launch institute. So some of those things, those will be available to, as you have, people shifting on and off of your board, as well as if you have a new superintendent come on, they will have the opportunity to participate in the Students First program as well. So I just want to be clear that you will absolutely have the option, if you choose to transition to the Students First program, and utilize the digital platform. The coaches will be have an opportunity to be trained to help you utilize that digital platform as well. So yes, rest assured, um, you will be able to be transitioned. We are the timing of that transition. If we haven't heard from you from early in early to 2026, so just after the first of year. If we haven't heard, we will be reaching out to those Be Legendary districts if we haven't heard from you by that time, and talk a little bit more about the timing of that transition. I think realistically, the transition, you'll continue to work with the coaches that you are working with. A lot of you have received additional grant funding from DPI to continue to work with your coach. You can utilize those grant dollars to also fund participation in the Students First program, because there will be a cost associated with that as well. That will depend on what your participation in the Students First program looks like. So that might vary from district to district, but there will be a local investment requirement there as well to take advantage of the granting dollars additional granting funds that have been appropriated through DPI. But I'm thinking the transition will probably be late spring, early summer to transition fully onto the digital platform. But you'd continue to work with your coach as you have been going forward. What if your board participated in the Be Legendary 2-day institute but did not continue with coaching and implementation? Do you need to attend in-person training again? If 70% because we are hoping that even those boards that maybe participated in the 2-day institute under the Be Legendary program but chose not to move forward with implementation and working with a coach, that they will reconsider and will be willing to consider working with a coach, because I really believe that while you learn a lot of valuable things at the 2-day institute, working with a coach and working over time to implement the program practices and standards and the procedures is really important for long-term success, and shifting, maintaining that shift and that laser focus on student outcomes. And so I'm hoping that we will get those boards that went through the institute but didn't elect a coach to also come over into the the Student First program as well. If 70% of your board members attended that Be Legendary Institute, then they won't have to redo the in-person launch. But if not, then if you don't have at least 70%, then there would be an expectation that you would repeat that or go through the one-day Students First Institute, which again isn't it's been completely redesigned. And so it's not like it would be this exact same experience. We've kept all of the important things and that we found a key in the Be Legendary program. Those are still in the Students First program, but how it's delivered and the focus of the one-day launch is different than the two-day institute that you experienced. And so um, hopefully that's clear. If you have any of our existing Be Legendary program or program participants that have any specific questions on what it looks like for your district, please reach out to me and I will be glad to have that conversation with you. One of the things that one of the most common questions that we receive and that I think I anticipate receiving going forward is how much effort um, is needed to become a Students First certified school board. So how is this going to change? Is this going to create a lot more work for us? So the program was designed with the understanding and the respect that serving on a school board is already time consuming and that's already a time-consuming endeavor, and that you all are, all of our school board members are volunteering your time to a large extent. And also your leadership teams have a lot on their plate as well. So we designed the Students First program with the understanding that we did not want to add a lot of work on top of what you already do. So um, it's really meant to be as simple as possible. I think the largest impact will be on the board president and the superintendent. And again, the whole point of working with the coach, having the digital platform, having the resources and the templates available to you for you to use to help you move through the program and implement the program objectives is to take as much of the work off of your shoulders or and so that you can focus on what really matters, setting those student outcome goals, maximizing the time at your meeting that you're focusing on student outcomes. That's really where we want the largest impact to be, not on your workload. So again, the program was really designed to have as minimal effort as possible. So with the understanding that you all already have a lot on your plate, especially our school board members who are volunteers and have full-time jobs, and you all have lives outside of work and board service that you need to focus on. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to just end with is that, we here at NDSBA hope to be your long-term partner in bringing and more outcomes focused governance to our state. Again, focusing, changing our mindset, changing the way that how we focus on student outcomes from a governance perspective. Our commitment here at NDSBA is to make sure that the program offers quality coaching tools, that you're receiving a quality program, that we're protecting the evidence-based standards and framework that the program is built on, and keep improving the tools that we provide to you through the program based on your feedback. Um, North Dakota boards have a proud tradition of leadership, and we hope that Students First builds on that legacy. We want you to lead with purpose. We want you to align your work with what matters most. And again, that is ultimately the success of your students in giving them the tools and the confidence and the abilities that they need to be successful, productive citizens in North Dakota and elsewhere. So this really is, I'm hoping, you will hear it as a call to action, um, and align your governance to drive those results for your students. And that you will, one of the things that you can do to do that is to apply today and start leading that change for your community. So with that, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A, but if you do, please let me know. Please, for more information to apply, go to studentsfirst.online. You can absolutely call us here at the office. Call me personally at the numbers on the screen, as well as you can email me as well. We are very excited about this program. We're excited to work and partner with you to, you know, be more outcomes focused governing bodies in North Dakota. And so please, again, feel free to reach out for more information. And we will continue to push out information proactively as well. And one of which is I'm hoping to do a demonstration of the digital platform here in the near future. So we'll keep you advised of that. And again, if anybody has any questions on the program or how existing Be Legendary districts transition, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email directly. Let me see. I think there was something in. Oh, sorry, there was a question in the chat. I don't know if I answered this fully, so I will. Is there a cost for districts that are in Be Legendary currently and transition to Students First governance? Yes, there will be a local contribution expectation. For those that are participating in the in-person launch, as well as utilizing the digital platform, the existing local or the local contribution expectation will be the same. It's 5,000 per year if you continue to utilize, if you continue with the implementation phase. Those districts that have already received granting dollars from DPI to continue that implementation phase, you can shift those dollars and utilize it for your local contribution. If any of you have any questions on how that would work, please reach out to me directly. But the short answer is yes. Thank you, Barry, for bringing that question specifically. I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So I think that's it. That's all I have for today. Stay tuned for our more information on our December Brunch and Learn. Also, you should have been receiving information about our winter summit, which was formerly known as our negotiation seminar. We are hoping to encourage more of you to attend the winter summit. We're broadening the scope of that event in February 5th through 6th in Bismarck here at the Energy Center for Excellence on the BSC campus. This year, since it's a non-legislative year, we're still going to provide negotiations, training and information and resources, but we're also going to provide governance, professional development, as well as focusing on workforce issues. So HR related issues, other, more broad workforce staffing related issues. And so stay tuned for information. You should have received a save the date, but we'll be sending out more information here in the next several weeks. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out for you. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me here today. Yeah, always a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.